Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastacha Deshatani. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulus for Ecstatic Love. Again, based on Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, chapter 26, wherein it's described in great detail the various paraphernalia and articles of Radha and Krsna that help stimulate or awaken our dormant love for them. In this regard, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would use the simple analogy of a baby's small shoes. In that when a mother sees her child's shoes somewhere, those shoes immediately remind her of her child in loving devotion. In the same way, when a devotee sees or hears or touches things related to the Lord, his feelings of affection and love for the Lord are awoken. In the last two lectures, we discussed how the sound of Krishna's flute awakens feelings of ecstatic love in the hearts of pure devotees. In chapter 31 of Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada gives an example. He writes that once the cowherd boys in Vrindavan, he uses the word, were vainly searching after Krishna for a long time, and for that reason their faces became darkened and their complexions appeared faded. And just then they heard the faint vibration from Krishna's flute coming from a nearby hill. And immediately all of them became very much engladdened. Nectar of Devotion. Now the Acharyas write that Srimati Radharani also experiences ecstatic love when in contact with certain things connected to her beloved Krishna. For example, many Acharyas say that black is actually Sri Radha's favorite color because, well, Krishna is famous as Shyam Sundar, meaning he who has a dark bluish black complexion like a rain cloud. And in this regard, Radharani often wears a dark blue sari so that she can always remember Krishna. She's reminded of Krishna during Amavasya, the moonless, dark black night, and Krishna Paksha, which means when the moon is waning. Again, it's dark out, so she remembers Krishna. And she remembers Krishna from the Krishna Sara, which means the black deer that she often sees in Vrindavan. And I was reading Krishna Sara also is a name for Sri Radha, meaning she who takes Krishna as the essence of her very existence, Krishna Sara. She's also reminded of Krishna by the Brahmaras, which means the bluish-black bumblebees. It's described whose effulgent color and frantic buzzing awaken her love for Krishna. Then there's there's kajal, or the black eyeliner cosmetic, which reminds Radhika of Krishna in whichever way she glances. Because her eyes, along with her mind and heart, are always surrounded by the dark Shyamasundar or Krishna, by dark Shyamasundar Krishna. Then kasturi, the black musk dot on her chin, placed there by her gopi friends, is also a constant reminder of dark Krishna. Then the acharyas say that winter season, like what? Winter season also always reminds her of Krishna and helps to awaken her love for Krishna with its long, dark nights. Anything dark, bluish black like a monsoon cloud. Then there's the famous dark tumultuary. We've discussed that many times, how it always puts her into ecstasy when she sees it, reminds her of Krishna. There's also the monsoon rain clouds, which resemble Krishna's dark hue. The acharyas say, along with their rumbling, which sounds like Krishna's flute to her. She's Krishna conscious. Blue lotuses in Vrindavan, of course, remind Sri Radha of Krishna, as does the dark Yamuna River. And even evening, called Shaim in Hindi, reminds her of Krishna. As well as the deep blue sapphire gem, which she wears in bracelets and necklaces to always keep Krishna in her thoughts. So in this way. Now, I was reading, it's really interesting, that sometimes the bluish black color of Krishna has the opposite effect on Sri Radha. Like what? We just described how, that the sham color reminds her of Krishna everywhere, but sometimes this color, bluish black like a monsoon cloud, it has an opposite effect on Sri Radha. It's all part of, Radha and Krishna's loving dealings, though. But anyway, how so? How does it have the opposite effect? Well, it's described that once when Sri Radha heard how Krishna was showing some affection to another gopi, she became transcendently angry. Man, again, is the word in Sanskrit. But this surprised some of her friends. This man is described by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati in his Radha Rasa Sudhanidhi text 89, how her friends became surprised. And he writes, one gopi addresses Sri Radha. O Ishwari, I know that you like the dark night when the moon is waning, the newly blossoming blue lotus, black bumblebees, the black deer, the dark tamal tree, the dark monsoon clouds, and the dark Yamuna river, because they remind you of Krishna. But why then do you dislike charming Krishna, who resembles them in name and form now? But Radharani, being so upset with Krishna, didn't answer her friend. Instead, she started to reject Krishna. How so? By vowing never again to look at anything bluish black like a monsoon cloud. This was her reaction. She was angry at Krishna. So then the acharyas say she cast off her blue sari, blue bangles, and sapphire necklace, and put on a red sari with ivory bangles and a pearl necklace. It's just the opposite. Then she wiped off the musk dot on her chin, then the kajal around her eyes. Then she replaced all these items with white sandalwood paste decorations. The acharyas say she even went so far as, when she saw a rain cloud coming, she opened up an umbrella to block its view. We've all seen paintings, Radharani's looking in the sky and there's the bluish black monsoon cloud and she's experiencing ecstasy. Not this time. She took the umbrella and blocked its vision. Then what did she do? She whitewashed all of Vrindavan's tamal trees and even refused to meet her own girlfriend named Shyamala. And I was reading she wouldn't even look at the peacocks because their feathers reminded her of Krishna's turban. It's also described that when she saw her own black hair reflected in a mirror, she broke that mirror into 100 pieces. And when the sun set that night, she covered her eyes with her palms to prevent from seeing the darkness of night. So the opposite effect. Now, of course, these are all wonderful expressions of man and are all part of Radha and Krishna's loving pastimes in Vrindavan, because what causes separation, but in the separation they develop an intense desire, sambhog, to meet again. So it's all part of Purnamasi's plan, because in Vrindavan, where ultimately such loving dealings, well, they all end on a sweet note. And all that is bluish, black like a rain cloud again becomes sweet and beautiful within the mind and the heart of Srimati Radharani. There's always a good ending in Braj, in Krishna consciousness. Anyway, that's my introduction. I was reading those things. I just had to share them. But for today's lecture, I would actually like to discuss how Mirrors, something so simple as a mirror, play a very prominent role in being a stimulus for awakening ecstatic love for Radha and Krishna, which is the theme of these lectures. Now, I did a lot of research. Mirrors are very much involved in Krishna service. I was reading that in the eightfold daily pastimes of Krishna, Krishna looks at himself in the mirror at all those 8 times of the day as they begin, so that it looks good to meet Sri Radha. And mirrors in Krishna's pastimes, they even have different names, like there's different types of flutes and different types of sticks and whatever. So there's different types of mirrors and they have different names. I mean, it's the details that make this so interesting. Like, for example, dharpan, that means mirror. Or a mirror is also called pratibimba dharshak, means beholder of shadow. Mirrors can also be called rupa vahak. Rupa vahak means they're carriers of beauty. Or kama shashan meru, the platform of Cupid's kingdom. Or mukur, another name for mirror, and arshi, which means a woman's mirror. Now, one of the services of Sri Radha's maidservants is to show these mirrors to Sri Radha after dressing her, like we do in deity worship. Those of you who are pujaris, you know we dress the deities and we show a mirror for the Lord's pleasure. It's one of my favorite parts of doing puja each morning. So when these maidservants do this, after dressing Radharani, I was reading, they hold the mirrors with 2 hands. One hand on top of the mirror and the other hand on the bottom of the mirror. And after showing the mirror to the divine couple when they're together, these maidservants then place the mirrors to their hearts with a prayer that the form of the divine couple displayed in the mirror will remain forever in their hearts. Wow. Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reveals his heart's desire to offer a mirror to Sri Radha in his book entitled Sankalpa Kalpadruma, verse 33. It's one of my favorite books, Sankalpa Kalpadruma. He writes as follows: O Mistress Sri Radha, your limbs are perfumed with natural fragrance, but still I will worship them with kumkum powder and offer you a lila kamala, a lotus flower, in your hand. Then I will happily show you a mirror embedded with gems and precious stones in which to see yourself. Hare Krishna. Beautiful prayer. Now, the acharyas describe that Sri Radha herself uses a mirror to see if her decorated face will please Krishna. And she usually uses 3 types of mirrors in this regard. Lots of mirror details. She has 3 types of mirrors that she uses personally. To see a large image of her face, she uses a concave mirror. To see a normal image of her face, she uses a normal mirror. And to see a small image of her face, she uses a convex mirror. There you go. But actually, she has many types of mirrors. I had to look around a lot. And her favorites are a mirror in a gold frame embedded with emeralds, a mirror in a mother of pearl frame, a mirror in an ivory frame, a mirror framed in jade stone, a mirror framed in zari. I had to look up zari. Zari is gold embroidery on a velvet cloth. Zari. She has a mirror with a frame of silver and a mirror placed in a frame of pearls. And a mirror framed in exotic wood. Now, there are also what are called prakritik dharpans. These are natural mirrors that are available in the Vrindavan forest. In what sense? Well, first of all, Krishna uses these mirrors to see himself, to be sure that he's attractive to Sri Radha. So what are these natural mirrors in Vrindavan that Krishna uses to make sure he's looking well for Radha? Very interesting. One such mirror is Jamuna Devi, the river Jamuna, whose waters on a clear, calm day, it's described, perfectly reflect Krishna's perfect form. That's poetry. Perfectly reflect Krishna's perfect form. All glories to Jamuna Devi. Another natural mirror are crystal white Govardhan Shilas, which are shiny and which Krishna, after decorating himself, looks into. He looks into the Shilas. Another natural mirror that Krishna looks in to see how he's looking is the gold plate upon which Krishna eats his meals. I was reading, it's very smooth and shiny and gives an excellent reflection. And finally, other natural mirrors are the eyes of his cows, which constantly stare at Krishna without blinking. They're natural mirrors. Now, of course, as one can imagine, there are many pastimes related to these various transcendental mirrors. For example, one rainy day, Sri Radha, being bound by social customs, could not leave her home in Varshana. So as a result of feeling intense separation from Krishna, she just fainted. And when Lalita, her dear friend, entered the room, she tried to revive Sri Radha but was unable to do so. So she, Lalita, who's known as, I was reading, the one whose mind runs faster than the 7 horses of the sun god. The one whose mind runs faster than the 7 horses of the sun god started thinking of ways to revive Sri Radha. And eventually she came up with an ingenious plan. She began putting mirrors everywhere in the room. I mean everywhere. On the floor, on the walls, on the ceiling, the corners. She just put mirrors everywhere. Then it's described that Lalita, who, quote, has control over the climate and clouds by dint of a boon bestowed on her by Purnamasi, Yogamaya, transformed all the individual dark clouds in the sky outside into different shapes of Krishna. Then she arranged that these cloud-like images of Krishna enter through the windows of Radha's room and reflect on the many mirrors everywhere. Then Lalita, who's described as also expert in playing a flute, just like Krishna, played a specific melody which is known to awakened souls who are experiencing separation from Krishna. And when this sweet sound of the flute entered the ears and heart of Sri Radha, she opened her eyes and saw Krishna's form dancing in the reflection of all these mirrors. And so then in ecstasy she stood up, I was reading, and started running in all 4 directions of the room, trying to catch the image of Krishna everywhere in those mirrors. And spinning around and laughing, she thought that she was dancing with Krishna. And in this way, Lalita created an illusion to help Sri Radha overcome feelings of separation from Krishna with mirrors. I was also reading that, inspired from this pastime, which is well known in Vrindavan, the Rajput kings of Rajasthan made similar rooms in their palaces. They're known as Shish Mahals, or palaces of mirrors, to capture images of Krishna for the pleasure of Sri Radha. Jai Sri Radhe. Now, one such mirror palace can be seen at the Amber Fort in Jaipur in Rajasthan. I've been there. There's mirrors everywhere. Such a mirror room also exists in Vrindavan, near the Govindadev temple at the backside of Brahmakund. You can go there. Now, there's also the famous pastime that took place at Kushum Sarovara where Krishna very carefully and with much devotion one time decorated Sri Radha's hair with her permission. I told that a few years ago. And when he finished doing so, Radha gazed into the mirror to see his work. And as she did so, Krishna walked around behind her to peer over her shoulder. But as Sri Radha looked into the mirror, her first impulse was not to look at herself, but to look at Krishna's reflection, not her own. It's described that like a thirsty chikora bird, she drank the rays from his moon-like face, now even more beautiful due to his service of decorating her hair. But finally their eyes met, and he said to her, "Dearest, what do you think? Did I decorate your hair nicely?" Then only for Krishna's pleasure did Sri Radha examine her own reflection, her hair. Then she spoke to Krishna in the mirror, "Shyam, no one has ever decorated me as nicely as you have. You are truly the presiding deity of adornment." Another beautiful description of Krishna. She said, "You are truly the presiding deity of adornment. Hari, you have outdone even my dearest friends." And I was reading that Radharani also wears a mirror ring on her small finger. She wears a mirror ring. Why? Well, due to strict social customs, she has to cover her face with her dupada, her veil, making it, difficult or impossible to see Krishna. But when she looks down at the mirror ring on her finger, this allows her to have the reflection of Krishna as a darshan. She has darshan of Krishna in the reflection, in the ring. Meaning that anytime he's standing nearby, she can have darshan of the Lord with that mirror ring. And she also has a small mirror frame in the shape of a heart that she wears as a necklace. Now the specialty of that mirror, you could say pendant, is that it captures the form of Krishna whenever Sri Radha gets a rare opportunity to look at him. Sometimes there's those sidelong glances. So the mirror captures the form of Krishna in the pendant. And it's described that this image of Krishna stays in this mirror pendant for more than 24 dandas. Now one time in a lecture we described that one danda is 24 minutes. So we do the math that the image of Krishna stays in that pendant, 24 dandas. It means 574 minutes or 9.6 hours. And she has that. Often she gets that glance, and she gets to see Krishna, and he sees her and kept it in the mirror. So therefore, Radha always covers that pendant with a cloth so that no one can see the mirror with their beloved's image in it. Wonderful pastimes of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So I would like to end with the beautiful poem by Taj Biwi. You remember we discussed her, this wonderful devotee. She was Muslim, but she became a great Vaishnavi in Vrindavan. She was a poet. I'd like to finish with her poem, very beautiful poem. She wrote, "O Saki, I showed a mirror to the divine couple who were intoxicated in each other's beauty. And when they looked into the mirror, they felt lost in it. I was completely aware of their eye talk, meaning talking by eye motions. Indeed, it took away all the material desires and worry from my heart. Why am I sitting in this house? I should go out and chant the holy names of the Lord. Taj," talking to herself, "your heart is like a mirror. Clean it and glance always at the beautiful form of the divine couple." Hare Krishna. Mirror pastimes. Just by hearing these mirror pastimes, somehow even in our hearts this love of Krishna is gradually awoken. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, the revealer of the Dham. So we'll be back in a week. Actually, I'm in New York City right now, in America. I have jet lag, but still I wanted to serve all of you by sharing with you all these wonderful pastimes. And I'll be back next week as well. So thank you so much. Shishi Gauranitai ki, Shishi Krishna Balaram ki, Shishi Radha Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dhama ki, Shishi Gauranitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan ki, December Marathon ki, back home, back to Godhead ki, Nitai Gaur Vimanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe.